Hi all, welcome back to the 1 minute farming videos and the echo. Sorry about that, but the tractors happen to be in the grain store, or one of the grain stores, and we do have a bit of an echo in here. This is a bit of a follow-up video to the Model B that we have all the videos of. And in your last video that I posted on this, if you recall, I was saying that we had a rather high oil pressure, and so I was going to have to take the crankcase cover off and try and reduce the oil pressure a bit. They run with about 10 to 15 pounds of oil pressure, and the needle on the gauge should read between M and H on that left-hand bottom gauge, which should give you around about the 10 to 15 pounds. Now, I have had 3 attempts at lowering the oil pressure on this tractor, and to be fair, the adjustments I've made, I've only been making gradual adjustments, and they have lowered it a little bit, but not as much as I would like. So I'm having my 4th attempt now, and hopefully I'm going to be able to get it to adjust down. Now you can see the spanner there. It's a cranked spanner that I made. This thing here, and that goes down on top of a nut on the oil pressure regulator. And that nut is a jam nut, lock nut, whichever you wish to call it. So I would slack that off by pulling it towards me. And then you turn that slotted screw. To lower the pressure, we want to screw it out, because under that screw there will be a spring, and under that spring is like a flappy piece of metal which allows oil pressure to be released. So basically I'm screwing that out to allow the oil pressure to be lowered slightly. Now, as I say, I've tried this 3 times. I've turned the screw a full, well, the first 2 times I screwed it out, I screwed it half a turn a time, and the last time I screwed it out a full turn. So I might just screw it out another full turn, because I have looked in the crankcase on the BW there. If we go and have a quick look, ooh, there we go, that was a bit of a shock. We look here, I've looked in here, because I just couldn't remember how far out the, it's dark in there, hang on a minute, let's get the torch. I couldn't remember how far out the screw comes out, and there it is. And on the BW, the screw is quite a good full turn and a bit further out, I would say, than on the B next to me. So, and this one has the oil pressure set correct. And so I'm going to turn that one out similar. I'll turn it out similar, and hopefully we'll have it somewhere near. As you can see, the BW is much easier to get to. All I had to do was remove the crankcase cover there with its breather, an oil filler. It's sort of 6 bolts and you're into it. On the electric start ones, obviously that is a hand start tractor, hand start. On the electric start ones there's a little bit more involved. You have the cover, then you've got the starter motor to remove and 1 or 2 other pieces. So yeah, so I think I'm going to turn that out a good turn again, that screw, and see if we can get the pressure down. I was a bit concerned when I first did it, thinking that, you know, a little bit of adjustment and it should have been there, because it didn't hardly make any difference on the gauge. The needle was still reading well up past the H, focus. And so I thought, that's strange, and I was beginning to think, on the third attempt, when it still didn't make any difference, I was beginning to think that possibly I have a faulty gauge. But these are good gauges. They come from a man in America, and they're good gauges. They're not the poor quality Indian ones that you can buy, as I have fitted to the BN over here. Well, this is the first tractor I ever rebuilt, and I just bought these gauges. Well, I think I did buy them from someone like Steiner tractor parts, but they are the poor quality. The temperature gauge no longer works particularly well on this, and the oil pressure gauge it reads nearly right, but it always had good oil pressure, this tractor, and anyway, it now reads a bit on the low side. And I'm pretty sure it's the gauge that's probably failing on it more than anything else. So yeah, so that's what I'm planning on doing. I'm going to readjust that nut and on the relief valve. As you may see, since the last videos, we now have a drawbar fitted with the roller and stuff. It's not quite finished yet. I have to make a little bit of a bracket underneath just to help hold it in position. I have gone to the older style drawbar. If this is a 1939, 1940, 41 tractor, then certainly 40 anyway, 1940, it would have had this older style drawbar with the twisted angle irons. This is one I had spare, which is in reasonably good condition. The trouble with them is they get badly worn because they're always slacking and banging around. So anyway, we've shot blasted that, put it on. So that's gone on quite well. Got a coat of paint on it. When I'm talking about the old style, so that's the old style, and then you had the later style, which is this is actually a copy of the later style. It's a bit heavier duty, but as you can see, it was made of a bit more beefier metal. Ignore the drawbar. The drawbar is actually wrong. This is actually off a Ford tractor. But I did, if you recall, I used this tractor for towing that trailer that we feed the stock with in the winter months, and so I did want to make sure we had a decent connection between the tractor and the trailer. So, but that's roughly what the modern style drawbar looked like. I think that was fitted from about mid-40s onwards. I think anyway. It's certainly fitted to the last style B with the pressed steel frame, and it was then fitted to the Model 50, which was the number when they started numbering them. In fact, I think on the back of this Model A, yeah, on the back of the Model A here, albeit be a bit bigger one than would be fitted to the B, but that's an original modern style drawbar. And I say this Model A is 1947, so that would be the proper drawbar for that tractor. So I thought, for period's sake and period look, I'd put the old style on this particular model. They're not the strongest drawbars, I've got to say, but anyway, it is what it is. It's fitted, looks the part, I'm well happy with it. The problem with being in this shed is that everything gets covered in dust, so it looks a bit grubby at the minute, but hopefully we'll get it washed. And I'm going to try and get this oil pressure issue sorted. Now that we've fitted drawbar, we can take the tractor out and do a bit of, I don't know, chain harrowing and see if we can get the engine bedded in a bit more, which might help with the starting on it. Unfortunately, we have started. It's now 1st of June, or the 31st of May anyway, and we have now started on our silage, haylage, hay time campaign. Of all the crops we've started in up to now have been pretty poor due to the lack of rain. If you recall in that video I made about my other office being sat in that tractor, I did predict that we would go into a drought, and unfortunately that prediction has come true. And in fact, we've had no rain in the northeast of England now since, in this part of my part of the northeast anyway, since for nearly 2 months. So you can imagine how dry things are. But hey, that's the nature of the game with farming. So yeah. So hopefully I might get a chance to take this out in the next day or two, and we'll take a video of it and we'll try and get it running on kerosene, or my kerosene TVO mix anyway. Okay then, so that's the plan. As I say, this is just a follow-up to that last video I did, which I think was posted or about to be posted. The V8 conversion moves on. We have had a slight hitch with the V8 conversion. I liberated some steel to make a shaft for it, and it turned out to be a bit on the soft side. The shaft did, the steel. I couldn't get a nice enough finish on it with the lathe. So I've now had to go off and buy a bit of more appropriate material, because I was trying to do it out of recycled materials off that we have laid about. So I'm just now waiting for that to turn up, and then we'll be back on with that. So, all right then. Hope you found that of interest. Thanks now. Bye.